You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network. Are you listening to this podcast on your commute to work, on a walk to the store? Do you ever think about the strangers around you and how your life could change by saying hello? That's the premise of Lincoln Center Theater's new play, The Coast Starlight. Set aboard a long-distance train, the play examines the power of human connection and the ways in which we guess at each other's lives. As a special offer to our listeners, all tickets for the month of February are just $35. To purchase tickets for The Coast Starlight, visit telechargeoffers.com and use code COAST35. Previews begin February 16th. For more information, visit lct.org.
Need more denim in your life? JCPenney is the go-to destination. Skinny to loose, bootcut to crops, distressed and clean cut. We help families rise, roll, fade, and flare to fit all the right places. Brands like Levi's, Arizona Jean Company, Mutual Weave, and more. Styles you can wear everywhere, in sizes for everyone. Check out the denim you crave in-store, and we're never short on options at jcp.com. Style is in our jeans. Get your denim at JCPenney.
We were all on the outside of an industry 4 years ago. The fact that we are kind of all here connecting on podcast is cool.
It is cool.
It's awesome.
It's an awesome industry.
It's a great industry, and I just love how authentic people are in it, because it's the whole point, right? Is that like, no, I can create. It's who I want to be.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life. I'm your host, Heather Vickery.
And I'm your other host, Alan Seals. And we're two perfect strangers who met by chance and embraced opportunity.
What?
Listen in as we chat. Well, no, we didn't really embrace that way. Listen in as we chat about other successful people and the risks they've taken to put themselves on a path to creative success. Our guests today are Alison and Lulu Picart, two people I met back in 2015 when they were performing in the off-Broadway production of Disenchanted. We'll let them tell the story of how their podcast began, but now they co-host two widely popular comedy podcasts, 10KDollarDay and The Daily Happy. Both are performers, teachers, and coaches in their own right. They are two people who have embodied the mantra of this podcast by embracing chance opportunities. Alison and Lulu, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yay! We love it here. Your podcast is so nice here. It's cozy.
It is.
It's great.
Do you like the big couch? It's velvet.
Yeah, the swag bags were nice. You know, these nice little mugs are. It's so like sweet in here. Yeah.
Was it mugs? Was it coffee? Yeah, we're like, was it underlined? That's like our swag that we're going.
Was it?
Yeah, and it's just made in like blackboard paint, so you can like write it on the cup every time.
Oh my God, I painted a whole wall with chalkboard paint when I first moved to New York, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Wow.
What would you write on it?
Oh yeah.
We would just draw pictures and like have parties, play games. It was just like a wall where you could graffiti inside your house.
I don't hate that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, really, when I plan my interior decoration, I think men's bathroom. How can I make this as close to that experience as possible?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Alan knows you both really well, and I have listened to several of your shows, and including your show with Alan on the theater podcast with Alan Seals. You got to add the with Alan Seals or he'll correct you. So I'm so curious about so many things, and you're like two whole separate people who do all of these things together. So I'm like, how are the four of us going to have this conversation and get all the things in? But before we start talking about what you guys are doing together now, I'm curious from each of you separately, what is the first time that you can remember that chance stepped in and guided you down this path that you're in?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I guess in general for me, like performing, it was in high school, and I went to a very small high school in Arkansas. I literally graduated with like 60 something people. We didn't have a drama program, but I had this amazing drama teacher who saw something in me and was like, hey, you should just go and like audition at this like thespian thing. And I had no idea what it was. I didn't even know like what a musical was. I knew like Grease. That was it.
All right. Then.
And she happened to tell me to listen to a cast recording of Rent. I ended up learning the Over the Moon like monologue and song and went to this like random thing just by chance. And first time ever, I ended up winning the competition and was like, oh, I should like do this. That was cool. And then crazy enough, like Rent was the first professional show I ever got at 19. So it was crazy.
That is crazy. And it's cool. I think there's something to be said when we don't quite know what's on the line. Like, you didn't really realize that was a big fucking deal. And so you're like, well, I'll just try the thing. And we're relaxed and, and you crush it. I did read or hear that you were in the touring production of Rent. Did you come to Chicago?
Yeah, we did.
I think I saw you.
It was a long time ago.
It was.
It was like 2000, 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had only been here for a few years at that time. I'm pretty sure I saw you.
That's crazy.
I mean, who knows if you were performing in that show on that day, but
She was.
Let's just assume you were.
Yeah, I didn't call out. Are you kidding? I'm just kidding. If anyone's listening from that tour, they're like, yes, she did. Yeah, but that's like the first thing I remember that was like, sure, okay, I'll try it. And then, you know, what's crazy is that same drama teacher literally has like followed my career path now. She knows Lulu. Like she's come to New York to see us in shows. She's a huge supporter of the podcast. We actually, when we did our podcast tour, she came to one of our, you know, backyard shows. Like, so it's just crazy. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. What about you, Lulu?
I think for me, it would be falling into comedic improv training because I'm a pretty like shy person. And so, and I don't mean that ironically, even though people probably listening to the podcast are like, that's crazy. But I feel like improv training gave me the social skills to be comfortable being funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, stop worrying about it. Like you literally won't get anywhere in this scene if you judge yourself and work on it. And so I fell into that show. I was working at Disney as I was trying to get a job. Let's be clear. I'd gone to grad school for something completely different. So I come out of there with my MBA. And I'm like, maybe I'll try auditioning at Disney while I wait for the real world to give me a real job. And then I got that job. And then they put me in improv training. And I was like, I don't know, this kind of feels cool. And I never left. And so I was only there.
You're actually still in that room right now.
Yeah, I am. It's just the only room I've been in. But I only got there to kill time. You know what I mean? Before like I grew up. And then I ended up there. And now this Peter Pan situation is just stuck.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Well, so for those who don't know, then 10KDollarDay, I love the concept, and I love this story of. Please embellish it as I'm ruining the story for you. But while you were in Disenchanted off Broadway here in New York, which Allison, you were like 6 months postpartum with a baby, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, when I moved there, I had to stop. That's when I like weaned myself off of breast milk. So my boobs were huge and like achy and on fire because like I had to move away from her. Yeah.
Well, it's weird that you were drinking breast milk, but it's really good.
I was like, if Alan doesn't say it, I'm going to have to.
It's so good for you guys. It heals all things.
I was like, wow.
Yeah. So you just had a baby.
Yes.
Embrace this chance to come up to New York, be in this off-Broadway show. This is where you meet Lulu.
Yep.
And then you guys are living...
Well, we didn't meet there.
Oh, wait. Oh, you met in Orlando?
Oh, we have 10 years before that.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
How about you stop trying to tell their story and let's let them tell it?
I told you I was going to mess it up.
No, it's good. I like this podcast where you tell people their history and then we change it. So
that's like a version of $10KDollarDay, isn't it? Like I know your real truth. Yeah.
So true.
It's called No, This Is Your Life with Alan Seals.
No, emphasis on the no. No, this is your life.
This is your life.
With Alan Seals.
Yeah, no, we actually, so you want to talk about was it chance? We have to say thank you to Eric Davis. He's a director in the Tampa Bay area. He cast us in, here it comes, Rent. So Alison and I met as Maureen and Joanne in Rent at American Stage in St. Petersburg. And for some reason that year, we got cast in like 2 to 3 or 4 shows together, and some of them weren't even in the same city. So it was like the universe was like, I really think that maybe the next part of your life is going to be really enmeshed together. So figure it out. And luckily we were like best friends from day one. I mean, it's really odd too when you meet your love interest. Like if you meet your love interest in a show on day one, I don't know any other industry where you meet someone and know, even if you don't like them, that you're going to be making out in 6 days.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, it's one thing if you get to a show and you're like, okay. I'm not saying, Alison, you weren't like that. I'm just not gay. So, like, so, you know, we met and we're like, cool, here we go. And I was like, this girl and I, man, we're going to be like in each other's faces for 6 or 7 weeks. Like, this is going to be my girl.
Yeah.
And then she was.
Yeah.
I mean, but she wasn't my girl, but I'm saying, like, she was my girl.
You ride or die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, we've done so many shows together. So when we got to New York, we lived together for part of that contract, and it was a natural extension. I know Alan wants us to get to this origin story. So we were sitting, you got a picture at New York. We were doing a show in Midtown, and we were living in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, which is 7 stops from Coney Island, and that is not close.
No.
So it would take us...
Exactly.
Oh, multiple trains. None of them are running express. So many people.
We are being held
And then we
at
still
the
had
station.
I can understand you too much. It's actually...
Yeah. You're like, what stop is this? What'd they say?
Wait.
Yeah.
We're now going
Or,
express
like-
for the next 6 years. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, you like look up from your book and they're like, and you're in Queens. Like, I don't know what happened. So the train flies now. So we would have this really long commute, and we would sit on the train for an hour and a half to 2 hours every night, one way.
After the show.
And we would
After the
sit on
show,
the
yeah.
train and we'd go, you know what I would do if I had $10,000? And then we would always talk about a hotel. It was always the same
It was
day.
hotels
It was
and
always
spas and fancy food.
usually involved like just lying in a king bed.
Yeah.
And people bringing
Room service.
food to you.
Yes.
Like it literally never got more. It never was like, and then I'd go to Rio. It was like I would rent a bed by myself.
Alone.
And people would bring things for me to do in bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's it. And that became our podcast.
Well,
Like-
that's big, heavy into leaning into embracing opportunity and taking a chance. I think starting any new podcast, any new endeavor, a show, whatever it is really difficult and takes a lot of effort. And what I love about the two of you specifically is that you recorded your first episode or two and had no clue how to make a podcast.
I didn't even know what a podcast was.
So
Lulu
it was
literally-
Lulu's idea.
Yeah, she came to me. She's like, hey, because we had been working together for so long, and then there was kind of a lull in things. And we both kind of were like, man, we want to create something. And we've done cabarets. We've written shows together. They always go over really well, but we wanted something that we could keep creating on. So she actually said to me, why don't we start a podcast? And I literally said, what's that? And so after, we talked about it. We looked up a few, and then, we just did it. And Lulu tells the story great, but she said once we recorded the first episode, we stopped and then we went, okay, now what? Like, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
I think the words that came out of Alison's head were, we finished, we're like, and that's the podcast. And she goes, how do we put that on the internet? And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how things get from there to there. Like, I don't do that, but we did that. And then we realized that I had not plugged in my microphone.
Yeah.
So our first episode is actually, my half is recorded off of the built-in on
Mic.
the laptop. I mean, I'm in front of a microphone, like I thought I was podcasting. And
I've been there, done that.
You look cool in
Yeah,
pictures.
Yes.
it looked like we knew what we were doing, but we've actually, I want to say this, we got better. Okay. So like, if people are listening to this and are like, what, how did this happen? We're 4 years later, we got better. We made a conscious choice about a year and a half in to keep all the mistakes in the history. And that was a choice that
I love
we've made, that we also think if that's not what you want, that's also fine, because there's no rules, so like,
Just
make
right.
your podcast how you want to make it.
Yeah.
But for us, that journey is really like we can literally see us learning.
I
through
love
it.
that.
It's like a history of us learning.
Yeah, and we did add little disclaimers. We call them our vintage episodes. So if someone is starting, I mean, we have over 200 and something episodes now just on that full, 10K Dollar Day episodes. So if someone does really want to go back to number one, we definitely give a little vintage intro to say, don't worry, if you want to start here, that's great, but the sound gets better. So
Yeah. But it gives people listening permission to try things imperfectly,
sure.
which is such a gift. Like just
Well,
fucking
that's the improv.
do it.
I
Like
was going to
Yeah.
say that's the improvisation you learn from
That's
it.
the improv, right? Like you can't figure it out unless you try it. And so, we've seen a lot of people get paralyzed by, well, what if I don't like the logo art? What if I don't do this? What if I don't like the template on day one? What if I don't like the equipment on day one? And we're like,
Change it.
we didn't like anything about our day one,
Yeah.
but we couldn't have done a day two if you don't have a day one. And I call it the first pancake. Like when I coach actors and stuff, I always say you have to have that first pancake because it's never good. It's always like
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah.
And you always hope, but you just have to get to pancake two. So just get the first pancake out of the way.
Yeah.
Talking about cooking it.
Really,
I don't
anything
understand- I don't
anything you
understand the
fry.
metaphor.
No,
I don't
anything you
understand
fry.
the
It could
metaphor.
be a
Do you
grilled
cook pancakes?
cheese.
No.
Anything.
No. It's just a pancake.
I toast
What
my
we talk about
pancakes.
could be a
I
grilled
toast my
cheese.
pancakes.
you can't
I'm
toast
sorry.
your grilled cheese. You toast them.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go
Eggo,
back. What
Eggo,
Brooklyn
Eggo.
life are you
Jesus,
living?
Lord.
That's not a
pancake.
pancake.
That's
That's
not
not-
even religious.
no,
That's
I'm
not
sorry.
making pancakes,
That's
Alan. That's frozen
Disgusting.
foods.
That's not the same.
Yeah.
But well, so how are
Okay,
people
never mind. You know
measure-
what? My metaphor only works with people who cook. So when you make pancakes, usually the first one burns a little. Like it doesn't usually for most people.
Yeah.
That first pancake never turns out. It's a thing that people talk about.
Yes.
But obviously not if you live in Brooklyn.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
What does this say about me and you and us in this world? I don't like my first pancake because it's typically undercooked, and I like my last pancake because it's a little burnt.
Oh.
I'm bent, huh? I don't know what to say about that.
Well, so
does
maybe you're
that
more
mean?
cautious right out of the gate. You don't want it to burn, so you take it off too early.
and
But then you
Lulu's just
realize
like,
you need to
"Fuck
trust
it."
it. You need to trust the process.
Yeah. Oh, I'm down with that, Allison.
Yeah.
You gotta,
Lulu
like,
just jumps in pancakes
like
first. She's
Yeah.
like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
All
And then
right.
she realizes after, okay, let's take a step back. And
Interesting. That's fascinating.
That's cool. I like
There
that.
you go.
this pancake metaphor. It's also like, first marriages. You always learn from that. and
Been
then
there,
you
done
get
that
better.
too. Hey.
Amen.
Okay, so let's just talk about 10K Dollar Day for a sec. It took me I had to sit with. I'm like, what the fuck is actually happening right now?
Fair. No, fair. So fair.
I-
So fair.
I love to travel. Like I can remember being a little kid and somebody saying, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to go everywhere." I have a luggage tag right now that says I haven't been everywhere, but it's on my list.
Aw.
Like I love to travel. So you have this show that is gorgeous about travel. Like it is luxury and fabulous and amazing and completely fucking made up.
Yeah.
So like what is happening in your brains that you're like, let's make up a show about fake travel that is extraordinary and people are going to think they're really there? Like
Fake travel, real places.
Yeah.
why? What is this?
Yeah, it didn't.
Okay, I want to ask Allie though.
Sure.
Allison, when we first started, did you think you'd be making up as much as we are making up now?
No, and that's what I think is crazy. Like if you go back to
Right.
those first dozen episodes, we are doing the typical luxury things. We're renting the really expensive hotels. We're going to spas. We're going to Michelin star restaurants. We're renting the expensive cars. We're doing these helicopter tours. But 200 and something episodes in, and that's 400 plus locations that we visited for 4 years. You have to start to get a little bit creative. And then also we found, as we would find some of these smaller countries that are not expensive to visit, you had to be
hard to
creative as
spend
well.
10K.
Exactly. So then that's where a lot of the comedy comes in because we'll have to think outside the box. I mean, there was one time that I went to a donkey farm and I bought a donkey. and was able to take that donkey and then gift him to the people of the area. And that, do you know what I mean? So like there's all this kind of creative stuff that you have to think of. Or one time Lulu like put on an entire like Star Trek convention, and
I did.
Yeah. Or I hosted a parade.
The Gettysburg reenactment where you had to hire an entire acting troupe with craft services and costume rental.
Yeah.
And like you get in depth. I really enjoy it.
I have to tell you, I have 4 daughters, and my third daughter has long struggled to go to sleep at night. And so something I started doing when she was really little was making up travel stories with her. I would say,
really?
Hey, sweetheart, do you remember that time that we went to France? She was like, at first she was like, and I'm like, yeah, don't you remember? We just decided and we got on an airplane. She's like, oh, yeah. She's like, we had ice cream by the Eiffel Tower. And I'm like, yeah. And we would like make up this whole thing and it would calm her down and she could go to sleep.
I love that.
I don't know, maybe like people listen and it sort of stimulates their parasympathetic nervous system and they can kind of just be.
Are you listening to this podcast on your commute to work, on a walk to the store? Do you ever think about the strangers around you and how your life could change by saying hello? That's the premise of Lincoln Center Theater's new play, The Coast Starlight. Set aboard a long-distance train, the play examines the power of human connection and the ways in which we guess at each other's lives. As a special offer to our listeners, all tickets for the month of February are just $35. To purchase tickets for The Coast Starlight, visit telechargeoffers.com and use code COAST35. Previews begin February 16th. For more information, visit lct.org.
23-year-old Walt Mendez finally got his dream job, working in show business. The only problem is his new boss, a low-level talent agent with rageaholic tendencies.
You're a nice person, Walt. That's going to be a problem. So listen, whatever your impulse is, do the opposite.
When she has a heart attack on his first day, leaving him alone, clueless and in charge, he discovers some questionable financial dealings, led by her dentist husband.
I'm literally doing root canals on anything with insurance.
And he turns to his ruthless predecessor for advice.
Walt, grow a pair. You're in the Hunger Games.
Soon, his shady ex-boyfriend resurfaces, coming on strong and making the job suddenly more attractive.
Am I making you nervous?
A little.
And it's turning you on, isn't it?
All heard through his headset at the office, Rolling Calls is a hilarious dark comedy starring Julie Halston, Richard Kind, Dan Rosales, Matt Doyle, Wesley Taylor, Luis Miranda, Aaron Davey, Brittany Mack, Andrea Mackisette, and more. Get ready for Rolling Calls at bpn.fm/Rolling Calls or everywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, we've had a couple different responses. Some people who are travelers have literally done some of the things we've talked about, and they will send us pictures of them trying the crazy ice cream outside of the shop in Italy. But then we've also had listeners write in that we don't know who are like, hey, listen, this is kind of making me want to travel, and I've never left Texas, and now I want to go see these things, and I'm adding to my bucket list. So I think and then we had no idea, obviously, when we started this 4 years ago, that we were about to be in a pandemic where all people could do was imagine travel.
Yeah.
So we kind of rode those coattails too. People were like, man, we can't get out right now, so let's at least dream about it, you know?
And Alison, you personally didn't do much traveling, and now you've started taking the podcast on tour and have done your own traveling now. Like, so talk that experience for you personally, trying to get yourself out there.
Yeah. I mean, even though I was raised a military brat and we moved a lot, it was always within the U.S. And there was not a lot of travel within that. It was like, we moved to this state, we lived there for 3 years. We moved to this state, we lived there for 3 years. And so when we started this, I had never been overseas. I had never been to another country. I had never even been to Hawaii. And so all of it for me was very imaginary. I was just like, I can't even imagine doing this. But it did. I got this, like, I got bitten by the bug. I started making like my own list. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do these things. And so within these last 4 years, I've been to Hawaii. I went to Sweden with Lulu, which was my first giant trip. And yeah, we took the podcast during the pandemic on a 3-week road trip. We went all the way to, what's the farthest we went, Lou?
Salt Lake
City.
So leaving from Florida, and then we went up to North Carolina and kind of came down to Arkansas, over to Salt Lake City, down through Texas, back home.
Yeah. And we did the podcast in our listeners' driveways and backyards and pool decks. And
it was awesome.
It was amazing. They would bring out people in their, in their town. They would bring out friends and family, and everyone was socially, distant. And we would do our podcast live. We rented a van and put a sticker on it.
Alan, we should do that.
It was awesome.
All right.
Listen, doing your podcast in someone's garage with signs that their kids made, with their neighbors in the driveway around like candles, is kind of the best way to podcast ever. We had such a good time hanging out in people's outdoor spaces at their houses and them getting to tell us, like how they listen to our podcast and bringing friends. And it was a really amazing experience. Also, we got out of the house because we were also going through the pandemic, so like for us it was great to have this momentum and to have something to work on during that time when in entertainment we were it felt like you could just be treading water.
Why did you decide to do that in the first place? Because you're in a pandemic. Of course it's like
Sunday social, Alan.
It was.
The listeners told us to do it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
they
said
they wanted us to come see them. They were, why don't you just come to my backyard? And so we were like, all right, if we can raise the money. So we started the GoFundMe and we did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then another segment you have inside the podcast too is your Daily Happy, which has turned into a podcast or the Happy, right? What's your happy for the episode? And it's turned into the Daily Happy, which has turned into this like internet movement, which is just I love how this is all grown.
Because you knew us when we were not even podcasters, Alan Seals, when we were just little off-Broadway actors trying to make it work.
You did, yeah. When we were so impressed that you could sleep inside a place you work,
Yeah, we visited. Listen, everyone, we visited Alan Seals at his fancy job. At the place at the Goog.
The Goog.
First, they've got food everywhere. You want to talk about imaginary luxury travel? It should literally just be waking up at Google. Yeah. There's food 10 steps from you at all times.
Yep.
They've got bathrooms everywhere. You can sleep in a tree next to a guy on a computer.
Yep.
I feel like it's the perfect place to live.
And some people do. There was a guy out in Mountain View who famously rented a U-Haul truck, bought a U-Haul truck, converted it like the back to a living room-ish area, and would just go into the office every day to use the bathroom and shower and work. He just lived in the parking lot.
Huh. I never knew that people at Google were that destitute.
Yeah, see, that's not for me.
You're being
no, thank you.
That's a different kind of. I don't need a lot to get by. That's a different commitment to that,
So let's talk about the something small that makes me happy. That is on my show that I host, which is the Brave Files. It's not the Brave Files with Heather Vickery, but maybe it should be. I ask every guest. I had Alan Seals on my show a few weeks ago, how they like to celebrate. And this isn't the same as the Daily Happy, but it's that same concept of like, this little thing just brings me joy. So how does that come about for you, the Daily Happy? How did you guys start that? And why does it mean so much to you? I mean, I love it. But
the origin story of it is Lulu's, so I'll let her tell you how that started, and she brought it into my life and the podcast world.
Yeah, I've been working on it secretly and stealthily for so long. So my family is the type of family that prays before dinner, and it's a bit like my mom taught the dog to do it, like we do it, right?
Wow.
And so when I went. It's actually really cute. He sits, and we're very Catholic. So my mom's like, "Bless us, O Lord," and he's like, "Give me the food." So when I went to
which also sounds like the Subway guy,
yeah,
exactly.
We're now Express
Q train. Yeah, we brought back the Y. What? That's not even a train. So
why?
I'm a creature of ritual. I like rituals in my life. I like having something before I go on stage. I like something before I go to bed. I'm that person. So I didn't necessarily feel I needed to bring that with me to college, but I liked the something before the meal. The let's look at the people around the table and have a little moment. I love that. So my friends in college that became really close, we would all eat dinner together, and we started to do a happy around the table, which for me took the place of that ritual. And it was just something really, really small. And it's kind of hung out with me and some little groups of friends, and it seemed like the natural thing. And now it's so much less part of my life when I was 19. And now for me, the happy is the daily happy, and it's my work with Alison, and it's this amazing thing where people write us and tell us what made them happy that day. Like sometimes we'll have listeners that we don't know write us and say, my kid got an A for the first time on his book report.
Yeah, I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll celebrate with you. Of course we'll celebrate with you. And we always say the smaller the better. If you book a Broadway show, sure, that's your happy, but everyone can tell that.
Right.
But what else happened today? Were you like, I've got to buy light bulbs? I have light bulbs. That's
right.
Make me really happy. That's what life's about.
Yeah, because we just realize that so much of life is waiting for those big moments, but it's important to celebrate and take time to think about a small moment. So we always say it could be something so minute, like my coffee was perfect and I got to drink it hot.
Yes.
Whatever.
Especially if you're parents.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, you understand. So just things like that. We want to recognize the small moments, the little victories, the things that just make you smile.
Do you have any, Alan, edit it. Has there ever been a time where
keeping that in
the daily happy, your little minute happy has led to some sort of chance that created something bigger?
Well,
the podcast,
I mean, Alison, the podcast itself,
the second
is,
podcast.
Yeah, Allie, tell that story because it's kind of insane.
Well, yeah, we always had What Was Your Happy at the end of 10KDollarDay, the podcast. And then when pandemic happened, a lot of our listeners were feeling isolated. We have a Facebook group called 10KDollarDays, and people were reaching out, from all over. We have doctors in our group. We have nurses. We have, mothers, fathers, even, high school kids. Everyone was feeling pretty isolated. So at that point, we decided to add another type of podcast that was just 10 minutes a day. And we used the Daily Happy as that launching point. And we started 10 minutes a day, and it was literally March 16th, 2020, when the world literally shut down. We started. And we always said, we'll stop this daily thing once the pandemic is over. So we went on every 10 minutes just to connect with our listeners. And there was a moment, I think about a year later, when we thought the world was kind of going back, and we mentioned it on that Daily Happy. We're like, well, we think, things are coming back. And we were inundated with listeners going, wait, does this mean you're stopping the Daily Happy? Because now it's part of my routine and it's 10 minutes a day. And that's when we decided to shift that feed into its own podcast. So now it's not part of 10K. It's actually the Daily Happy. It's a separate podcast, 10 minutes a day. And it's been awesome. And what's cool, Lulu calls it our diary. You can literally go back 2 years and listen to us go through the pandemic. And you can hear me, and I'm sure you'll understand as a mom, being like, oh my God, they just shut down schools. Talking about that, but then also trying to, keep it candid and up for our listeners. But we talk about news and what's happening in the world, and good stories and bad stories, but with our commentary on it. Yeah. And people have been attracted to it.
Literal 10-minute episodes.
Yes.
And you've got a timer and some creepy lady in the background every time who's like 5, 4, where Lulu has to get her zing at the end of every episode.
It's so stressful.
That's got to be such a challenge, 10 minutes. Alan and I could never do anything in just 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. And then people had, we went through a really long period where we just kind of forgot to end on the happy because we got really in love with, just talking about the news. And people would say, hey, remember, we keep waiting for your happy. I was like, oh my gosh, we got to put in we just forget. I don't know.
Because all of a sudden it'll start the countdown, and we're like, and then he went to the bar and he took out this and blah. We just start talking, yeah.
Because people tell us where it fits in their day. So I feel like that 10-minute is non-negotiable, right? Yeah. So Mike in Greensboro runs with our he does a 10-minute run every day. Cool. So for like a week at 5 minutes, we'd be like, turn around, Mike. You know, because we know where it fits in your life.
Yeah.
People tell us, you know, there's another woman and she uses it to put on her makeup in the morning. She's like, that's my 10-minute, because it's an audible timer.
Yeah.
So people can use it. So we know we fit in people's routines.
I love that.
And it's a lot of pressure. You're like, got to make the car line. Car line's got to be good for Aaron in Texas today, and makeup's got to be good for Melissa in Florida. So we're doing it.
Third podcast idea, you need to do like a terrific 2. The podcast, so you can help something funny for kids to listen to while they're brushing their teeth, or adults. I would listen to you for 2 minutes while I brush my teeth.
Alan Seals, I've already written a song.
Oh, she has written a brush your teeth
you don't
song.
know it. It's true. It exists already. I'll send it to you.
I think we should hear a little bit of it right now, Lulu.
You saw me try to set up this microphone. You think I can pull up an MP? You think I know where that is in my life right now? Like I can pull up with a keyword and pull something up like that? That's funny. That's amazing.
Brush your teeth.
No, it's a rap. It's a rap.
Do you remember? You could just do it live.
I just know that like the song part of it's not that would be funny. But what is interesting is it is an exactly 2-minute long song. So there is a time in it where we say now switch. So it's supposed to be for kids.
I love
to do it zone by zone.
I'm gonna need that. Maybe you can send us the file and Alan can add it in.
Yeah, I'll look at that and see. I'm very sad that my favorite rhyme in it did get cut. So I will tell the people that if you heard that song and you didn't hear people say that I'm a no fuss kid when they see my bright bicuspids, it got cut, and I was so sad. It also got cut was they tell me I look so solar when they see my bright white molars. That also got cut, but
you wrote this song. Why did you cut your own favorite lyrics?
I was hired to write it, so I did not get full approval.
Rude. Well, I will tell you what. I don't know if the two of you have listened to any episodes of this show, but this feels like
I have.
An opportune time. If you have listened to this show, then you know we have a little bit that we like to ask our very talented guests to do, which is create their own rendition of the song Shut the Fuck Up, Alan. Originally invented by James Harkness, and he deserves all the props, but also we've had lots of guests do it, and it's pretty magical, and we would like to give you the opportunity to give it a go.
Okay, I think we have a tune.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. We're just going to trust that you can line this up.
Yeah.
Can you give me my notes?
Where are you starting?
Allie?
Yeah, where are you starting?
Are you saying, what's the phrase?
Shut the fuck up, Alan.
Shut the fuck. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Bum, shut. Oh, 1, 2, 3.
Shut the fuck. 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 Shut the fuck up,
Alan Seals. That'll work out. We think you can line that up and it'll be in harmony. We're pretty sure.
Well done, friends.
Lord. Thank you. And Lulu,
anytime.
I always just want to promote your scat, because I always
a zoop doop doop, shut the doop doops, get up to Alan Seals.
Yeah.
Was it chance or was it scatting? I don't know.
Was it scants?
Okay, was it chance? Let's just talk about that for a second, because there is a connection which I would like for you all to explain for me and for our listeners. 10KDollarDay, Broadway Podcast Network, which we are on the Broadway Podcast Network. The Theater Podcast with Alan Seals is on the Broadway Podcast Network.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I hear about that flagship show. Oh,
what's the story there?
So 10K was about like 40 episodes deep, and I hadn't heard from the two of you in a long time. And then I forget who reached out. Somebody reached out. And you're like, hey, we need a guest Googler for our podcast, because you used to, I don't know if you still do this. I don't think you've done it in a while. You used to get third people on the podcast every now and then to sit there and fact check you, because a lot of times you just pull things out of your ass when you're making up these funny stories.
Correct.
And I was also working at Google, I was your first Googler.
Yes. Googler.
Googler. And I had so much fun with the two of you sitting in my dining room. You came over, you were in Brooklyn when, before virtual recording was a thing. And I had so much fun that I said, oh, I want to keep doing this sort of thing. This is just a chance that I said yes to, and then I want to keep doing it. And so it was not shortly after that I decided to start the theater podcast with Alan Seals. And I had so much fun with that and started meeting more people. And not shortly after that, the idea for the whole Broadway podcast network was born. And then now you said $10KDollarDay is 4 years old. My podcast is 3 years old. BPN is just over 2 years old. And God, all of us have just grown tremendously. I was on the red carpet last night with Hugh Jackman at the Music Man opening. And I thank you. I want to thank both of you for all of this, because I wouldn't be here without the two of you randomly reaching out saying, like, be my googly googler.
Wow.
Was it chance?
Yeah, that's so much.
You made them speechless.
I know.
I think the chance would have been... What would the moment of chance been? The moment of chance would have been Alan seeing Disenchanted and bringing us to Toxic Google.
Yeah.
That's the chance. That was you taking a chance on Disenchanted that brought us here.
Disenchanted, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I loved. And of course I had to bring him in. I support the arts and was bringing in Broadway cast all the time. And then the chance that out of the whole cast came in. It was six of you wonderful ladies. And, the chance that the three of us kept in touch, and then all of a sudden you just reach out to me randomly when you're back in town to do this thing, which still doesn't make sense why you thought of me in the first place, but yay. Say yes.
Wait, what you're missing, Heather?
Googler.
No, what you're missing, because, you met him as the head of the Broadway Podcast Network and host of the Theater Podcast with Alan Seals, is that before he had the Theater Podcast with Alan Seals, he even came with us to record with someone and ran our sound. Do you remember this? You were like, I'll be your sound guy. You came with us to Washington Heights or something.
It was One Up Duo. The One Up Duo.
It was the One Up Duo.
And you brought everything. He set up all the mics. He sat there. He monitored it. We felt so legit. And he was like, I'm going to start a podcast one day. We're like, all right. You're Look at him now.
Okay, little boy, go ahead.
I know. It's crazy.
I do have a question. Alan and I text each other when we're on these interviews back and forth, ask this question or like that. How the fuck? I have podcasted now for 4 years. My show is 4 years old also. I have 204 episodes out officially as of yesterday.
Woohoo. Yeah.
And how did you go from literally not knowing what a podcast was, or then you recorded it and you were like, now what? To having the fan base that you had? What happened to create all of this that is now this big thing that is the $10KDollarDay and all the shit that you all do?
I think a lot of it stemmed from realizing that it's okay to be small. And we actually did a talk one time called Small But Mighty, where every listener to us is important. We weren't trying to reach 10,000 people. We were trying to reach just one. And so it was a slow growth kind of thing. So once someone, became a fan, they became a friend, and then they were our bae. And then they feel comfortable with us. We have people write us and say, I feel like I'm in the backseat of a best friend's car ride. And we're like, I'm just chatting with you. So that's what I think is maybe different, is that we are approachable and we're very candid about our mess ups and about our strengths and our weaknesses. And people, I think, feel like we're approachable. And so, we started a Facebook group and, people join that, and we, make it a safe community. During pandemic, we had one of the doctors who listened to us literally reach out on our Facebook group and say, hey, is there anyone in this Bay group who can bring us coffee, because we can't find any? And from that, Lulu literally spearheaded like a complete charity now. Like she has an organization that has grown now and like they feed doctors and nurses, but that started in our $10KDollarDay Bay group. So it's just like, it's a community. And even though it starts small, you have to nurture it, right? It's like a plant, right? You got to water it and it grows. So I think that's how we've kind of managed to do it. And we're still doing it. You know, we're growing every day. We're about to host the first ever podcast retreat that we are making it small because it's important to connect with people on a real level. These giant podcast conferences are great, but we wanted to do something small so we can actually look someone in the eye, help them through this podcast journey. So I think that's where we kind of approach things a little bit differently.
I love that.
Hello, attractive and discerning podcast listener. Have you lost weight? I'm Tom Allen Robbins, creator and writer of Twits in Love, a steampunk distraction. It's a radio comedy here on the Broadway Podcast Network.
And I'm Michael Urie, also known as Cyril Chippington Smythe, your favorite boob and the star of Twits.
We're here to tell you that in addition to being a podcast, Twits in Love is now available as a real live hold-in-your-hands book on Amazon.
Or e-reader.
Yes, you can get it on a Kindle.
Kindle.
But you can also listen to it here on the Broadway Podcast Network, performed by an unbelievable cast.
Aw, shucks. Join me and a slew of amazing actors like Christian Borle, Mary Testa, Dakin Matthews, Kira Allen, James Monroe Iglehart, Lilius White, and Anne Harada in a story about the world's richest man, Cyril Chippington Smythe, his steam-powered valet Bentley, and his chinless cousin Binky, as they navigate a dystopian world in search of love and meaning.
Listen to Twits in Love, available now everywhere you find podcasts, and make sure to learn more about getting the book by visiting bpn.fm/twits.
Wait, where do I go?
bpn.fm/twits, you boob. Yes. Or you can go to twitschronicles.com.
Gotcha.
I think being small was like our superpower at the beginning because there were no eyes on us. Like we weren't celebrities. No one was going to like find the podcast to judge it. No one was going to find the podcast to hate it, So like for a long time, we'd be like, I don't know, there's like 20 people listening. Hey guys, do you like this title art? Should we change it? So I feel like the people that were along with us from the beginning, they do feel like they helped shape the podcast. Even now, we just changed the format of our titles. We brought it to the Bay group. And when we put a poll together, we said, okay, should the titles be like this? What do you like out of them? And besides the fact that we got a clearer decision from the listeners, we also know how people listen and engage with our material, which is amazing for us to know, and to know that what it's doing, how it's touching you. We know where you live. We know whatever they'll tell. We don't like stalk them or anything, but that sounded terrible. We know where they live. I know their social security. I've opened credit cards. Like we are connected. You know what I mean? Like it's a community, and they're here for us, and I know that. So.
They'd be in our commune when we build it, when the world ends.
For sure. I think they're all hoping that we can like get our stuff together and figure out a 10K trip. Like I think they're just like jonesing for us to be like, we figured it out.
That's the next chance opportunity right there.
Yeah, that's our goal is to be able to form that community and actually have people take a 10K trip with us.
Yeah. Dream. And then we would go and like donate money to something. Like that would be my dream. Like you give us $5,000, we'll give you a $10,000 day and we give $2,000 of it to charity. Live my life.
Yeah. All right, that's where Heather at the end of the Brave Files with Heather Vickery. She always asks about charity at the end of her episodes as well. Yeah. So you guys all have that in common because it's all philanthropic and super, super nice.
Yeah. Well, we felt like it was important after we spend a fake $10,000 on just like, donkeys and beer that we should also try to give away $10,000 in the same community that we were fake vacationing in.
That's so cool.
Donkeys drinking beer. This is like a whole animated series that I think we should just put together and pitch to Netflix, like the $10KDollarDay donkey drinking day.
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
I mean, they would make really funny animated. Like if you could like animate a 10K day, I would watch that. I would watch that so hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, are you kidding? Yeah. A Star Trek convention in Pioneer Town, which is a frontier town in California. I would watch that in an instant. Yeah. It's right there, Netflix. Let's go.
I love it. Y'all, this is so much fun. You're obviously great together. You know that. You've been ride or dying for a long time. It's a treat to get to know you. I'm a fan. And so I just want to thank you for being here and sharing your chance encounters and opportunities with us and just sort of helping people see some possibility for themselves. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
We're so happy that Alan's found a friend. We've been really worried about him. Your origin story for this podcast is great, but I need to tell you, he normally lurks in corners at conferences, so it's kind of his MO. And you fell for it, and now he has a third podcast. So,
wow.
Thanks for calling me out, Lulu.
No. I want to say though, because Alan, you kind of talked about it, but I think it's kind of crazy that we were all on the outside of an industry 4 years ago, and Alison and I have talked about this too, where we kind of had this moment of an imposter syndrome moment. Well, I did, but Alison doesn't even occur to her to ever have imposter syndrome. But I was like, can we coach podcast? Will people buy, into this retreat? It's like the bravest thing we've done is to put this retreat up for sale, right? Because people are gonna be like, what do you know? Your content's a mess. But we've been now to so many conferences, and we've been on the talks, and we've seen the technology change, and we've seen the industry grow, and we've seen people who have never heard about podcasts now already mad about Joe Rogan's, right? Where did you go? How fast was that 0 to 60? So the fact that we are kind of all here connecting on podcast is cool.
It is cool.
It's awesome.
It's an awesome industry.
It's a great industry, and I just love how authentic people are in it, because it's the whole point, right? Is that no, I can create. It's who I want to be. There's no other social convention around it. So I think that that's something that we get to do is connect with the most pure versions of ourselves behind the mic. I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely the most supportive content creators I've ever been around, are podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's when you can be around a community of people who are struggling to keep going every day. It's a form of family building, and podcasting is hard. People get into it, and they're like, why am I not a millionaire overnight? And well, because you're a podcaster. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's great. It's great. It's a beautiful space to be in, and I'm excited to be in any space where people get to think about what they say and then connect with somebody about it. That's everything, right? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. And y'all can listen to 10KDollarDay and The Daily Happy anywhere you enjoy podcasts, including wherever you're listening to this one. Unless you're listening to it from the Was It Chance website, then you should go to the 10KDollarDay.com.
Check the show notes. It's there. It's all right.
Thanks so much, ladies.
Speaking of show notes, I want to give a credit where credit is due to Ash Burns, original producer for 10KDollarDay.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. And our new producer, Andrea Candy. We went through a producer change last year, which was also do we have a small business? Do we have employees that come in and it was crazy for us, but the transition has made us reevaluate almost everything, which was great. So now we feel like we're even, better poised to figure out what's next.
Where else can we find you on socials and etc.?
Oh, depending on how much time this week and that next week, you can find us on Twitter at 10KDollarDay, on Instagram at 10KDollarDay, and you can email us at 10KDollarDay@gmail.com. We love meeting people.
That's
and
right.
even
You
if
can
you're
also find us on TikTok at 10KDollarDay.
Yes.
That's right. We went viral.
Yes, please. We did go viral. We have one that's 11.7 million.
Wow.
11. Is that true? 11.7 million?
Yeah. Oh, 11? Not 11. 1.7.
Those decimals will get us every time, guys. Those decimals will get us every time. That's
Sorry.
also anyone who listens to our travel podcast. It was not until episode 17 or 18 that Alison knew that you had to convert money. It's one of my favorite episodes of all time. And I say something I'm like, oh, you're in Ecuador. And I said, well, what's the actual currency there? And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no,
idea.
what currency did you? We're almost 20 episodes in. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, do you know that other countries have different currencies and you have to convert them? And she goes, well, I know some countries use a comma.
Yeah, no clue. I mean, I know now. Listen, you also learn a lot on our podcast.
You learn what you don't know.
It's 1.8 million.
Commas. 1.8 million.
1.8 million right now. But yeah, it's TikTok 10KDollarDay, and we're growing that. And then the Daily Happy, you can find us at This Is the Daily Happy on Instagram and at This Is the DH on Twitter.
Nice. I'm
So much
following you
work.
all on the TikTok right now.
Perfect.
So I'm Brave Heather on the TikTok. So follow me back.
I will. Oh, I see you.
Heather, my theme for this year is foster bravery.
Yeah, girl, let's talk about it. That's my whole jam.
Yeah.
I wrote a book called
That
Fuck
was my theme.
Fearless. Making the
I heard
brave
you
leap.
talk about it on your podcast. Yeah, I
Love
can't
it.
wait to look it up.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Thanks. Bravery's my jam. Good for you.
So cool.
Well, thank you both. This has been a barrel of chuckles.
Yeah, thank you. And
Thank
thank you for
you.
thinking of us and having us on your first season. That's so exciting.
Are we doing
it's awesome.
seasons?
Yeah.
I guess we're doing. No, we're not doing
Well, I
seasons.
don't know. You don't have to.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
love you both. You're so awesome.
Love you. It's good to see
Alice,
you.
nice to see your face. Heather, it was really nice to meet you.
Yeah, so
Congratulations
nice
on
to
the new
meet
podcast.
you.
What a hilarious couple of ladies.
Right? We didn't even get into the representation of being two women in the podcasting industry, which I'm sure strikes a chord with you being one
Absolutely.
of the few women. There is so much of a lack of representation and diversity in the podcasting industry, and they have spoken at conferences. They've done a bunch at She Podcast. They're just two incredible people who just get together, have so much fun, and in the process want to help everybody else along with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to have them back to talk about it. The thing is, there just wasn't time. It just, it's like you push the go button, and I don't know how they managed to keep their own show within a certain time frame.
Well, the Daily Happy is funny because they talk, and then at the very end, you hear the lady coming in, and it's like, at 10, 9, and they're like, they're frantically trying to wrap it all up. It's really funny.
It was a lot of fun. I absolutely love just this whole sort of improv approach to, which is the was it chance approach to, like, yeah, what the fuck? Let's just try this thing. Oh, let's do this. Oh, you want to try that? Let's try that. What would happen if we do this? What do you guys think of that? Like, just this whole life approach. It's so much of what we're trying to do here is like, what happens when you just show up? What happens when you say yes?
Mm-hmm. And all of us, the three of us, and the four of us actually exemplify all of that. You and I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have met. I wouldn't have a podcast. It's all just saying yes to the opportunity.
It is absolutely about saying yes to the opportunity. Although I might cry myself to sleep tonight now that Lulu told me I'm not special.
When did she say that?
She said that that's your MO, and I fell for it. Like,
I'm not special. Not that you.
No, she said I'm not special. She said I'm not special because you do that with everyone. Can you fix that?
I don't. I can tell you that it's not true.
Okay.
Is that fixed now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Because you're my podcast husband. So before we started the show, it was like, so my podcast fiance, people were like, what? I'm like, well, we're not podcast married yet, but now we're podcast married.
We are committed to each other, and we will see it through thick or thin till death of the internet do us part. So make sure to check them out on the website, 10KDollarDay.com. Subscribe to both of their podcasts, 10KDollarDay, which is the number 10, 10K, the letter, Dollar Day spelled out.
No dots, no decimals, no commas.
No dots, decimals, or commas, except the .com. There is the .com
there is
part
the
of it.
.com.
So but not .comma and not .com, because that, yeah, okay, I'm confusing myself. Find them online. Find them on social media.
And if you have not already started to follow this very show, Was It Chance, please be sure to do that. You can follow on Apple. You can follow on Spotify. You can follow on all sorts of apps. Good Pods. Do you listen to Good Pods yet? Have you checked them out? There's so many.
Good Pods, Castbox.
All of them.
Player FM, Stitcher,
Wherever you are.
The Broadway Podcast Network app.
the Broadway Podcast Network app. Click the follow. And then if you like us, and let's be honest, we really hope you like us. Can you write a review? Can you rate and write a review? Because people decide if they're going to listen to shows based on other people's reviews. And we would really appreciate it, right?
Damn straight.
Alan, where can they find us?
On Instagram at wasitchance is our username. And then on the Gmails, wasitchancepodcast@gmail.com. Shoot us a note. Let us know what your story is. Let us know when you took a chance and it played out positively or negatively, and how the negative turned into a positive. We want to hear it all.
Absolutely. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Heather Vickery.
And I'm Alan Seals.
And you've been listening to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life.